The value of stable coins has been soaring. At this point, I don't think I need to tell you all that. I mean, throughout the past few weeks, you have all been monitoring the YouTube channel. Furthermore, since stablecoins are, well, significant in the world of cryptocurrency, they are undoubtedly mentioned in practically every conversation. Listen, practically everything we discuss is made possible by this. Guess what happens if we're talking about trillions of cash flooding the chain? We don't arrive there with stable currency. If we're discussing the widespread use of cryptocurrency, guess what? Stable currency are necessary for us to get there. When it comes to XRP or any other utility-based project, stable coins are going to speed up and essentially enable everything we discuss. As of right now, we're still seeing significant movements. For instance, the CEO of Bank of America claims that the bank is creating its own cryptocurrency stablecoin. We have been hearing about this for a while, but I believe that the first significant indication that this would occur was back in January, when the CEO stated that the bank was prepared to fully invest in cryptocurrency payments if regulators permitted it. The CEO of Bank of America then stated, I believe back in March, that they are genuinely looking into issuing a stable coin as soon as they possibly can. With regulatory approval, of course. Thus, this is still a topic of discussion. However, stable coins are what's wild about this right now, and I recently discussed this in a video. You know, their monthly transfer volume is around $3 trillion. When will we declare that this is the new currency? We have been discussing this digital fiat revolution for years. People were afraid of CBDCs. You know what? Our coins are now stable. The CBDC coins are stable. Programmable digital fiat money on a chain is known as a stable coin. And it's taking place. It's taking place right in front of us. And it did. Very quickly. Stable coins have undoubtedly exploded in the previous 12 months to such an extent that it is nearly hard to ignore them. I believe that the first significant indication that stable coins were the way of the future came back in 2022. Why? Because we did hit, I believe the whole annual transfer volume was about 11 trillion, which at the time was driving Visa and, of course, MasterCard. And, well, we already know that we blew today. They are both stable and out of the water. And there are coins all over the place, with the stable coin leading the race. All of them are examining stable coins. Their goal is to introduce a reliable coin. As you are aware, banks in the US are now attempting to introduce stable coins, and we are witnessing an increasing number of stable currency launches by major players. For instance, SOG just introduced a US dollar stable token on Ethereum and Solana. By the way, if you recognize this name, it's most likely because it's the same bank that will be introducing its V stablecoin on the XRP ledger this year. We haven't heard anything significant about this, but I'm still very much focused on it because SG Forge is still working with Ripple custody. In fact, I'm still focused on this stablecoin because it's EUR. Euro stablecoins are undoubtedly significant. As we already know, a Euro stablecoin is going to launch on the XRP ledger. It's Euro P, I believe. That's one that I'm still actually looking into, since, once more, any stable currency in the European region is significant because to the MA compliance that they must undergo. However, aside from that, the US dollar stable currency that they are introducing on Ethereum and Solana is significant because we simply keep seeing these kinds of movements. And the key move right now is USD stablecoins. Why? We know that the United States is investing heavily in digital assets and stablecoins denominated in the US currency. Additionally, we discussed the Clarity Act here. Correct? I don't believe. I need to see this video again. Just yesterday or so, I played it in a video. This is the Clarity Act, isn't it? It is on its way to the House floor. This has already been completed. All right. Now, we're primarily focused on the Genius Bill, in addition to the Clarity Bill. Bill the Genius is tremendously important. Don't get me wrong, the Clarity Act was a huge one, but the next one we should focus on is the Genius Bill, which will significantly unleash the stablecoin market. At XRP Las Vegas, Brad Garlinghouse now issued a warning to us. We've heard that a significant shift is imminent. Thank you so much for this video, digital asset investor. There will soon be a significant shift. Vegas 2025, Brad Garlinghouse at XRP Loss. Take a look. This may sound a bit dramatic, but I think it's a great time to be alive and witness the change from headwinds to tailwinds. And I believe that people continue to underestimate how significant it will be when the world's biggest economy and the most significant regulatory agencies shift from openly and actively being antagonistic and unhelpful to constructively collaborating with this industry. Well, it's a huge sea change. I believe that people don't realize how important that will be in 2025, 2026, and beyond. Currently, one of the things in the hidden road acquisition, namely, I believe that Ripple aims to be somewhat at the infrastructure layer. We try to consider the direction the world is headed and place wagers that will pay off over a number of years. As I've always mentioned, this group in particular has been incredibly patient with us during some really annoying arguments. However, the acquisition of the secret road is actually about continuing to establish bridges between decentralized and traditional finance. And I suppose the DeFi world will just develop and replace it if you assume everything will be all right. I do not think so. We must close that gap. And for nearly 10 years, Ripple has been assisting our payments industry and filling that gap. And in my opinion, Hidden Road stands for the idea that we need the infrastructure to allow the biggest market makers and hedge funds in the world to enter this ecosystem. One of the top non-bank prime brokers with the quickest rate of growth is Hidden Road. Traditional commercial banks make up the majority of the players in the prime broker market, and due to regulatory dynamics, these institutions have been antagonistic toward cryptocurrency. That is somewhat changing. But I believe that Hidden Road is a subliminal, almost brazen nod to their hundreds of customers, names you may recognize, who are the biggest financial players in the world. Last year, they were able to clear $3 trillion. They're expanding rapidly. And to be honest, we're only going to witness an acceleration given Ripple's balance sheet. For the XRP ecosystem, that is fantastic. That is fantastic for RLUSD. And I'll never stop telling people that Ripple is fully committed to doing everything in our power to make XRP the most reliable, practical, and liquid digital asset in the world. That is what we shall always be dedicated to. In other words, we are currently seeing some of the most significant developments in the US market. And, I believe that every shift that has occurred over the past 12 months is incredibly identifiable. It's sort of wild to watch, but that's precisely why I mentioned that things in the cryptocurrency space may change almost instantly. Price and activity aren't the only factors, are they? When we talk about price action, we're not only talking about the possibility that the price of these assets could go completely out of control in, say, 3 months, or perhaps just a day or two. Price action isn't the only factor. Everything that occurs in the tech world happens very quickly. And the reason I've always said this is because of what's happening outside of the United States. Technology doesn't sleep. If the technology is so effective, if it is that disruptive, and if it allows you to achieve things that were previously impossible, guess what? Whether the United States wishes to embrace it, it will almost certainly be done. Second, we take it seriously when we see another country advancing in these technological races. Because of this, the United States is now beginning to take significant action because we understand that the situation is getting too huge to ignore. Let's come over here and discuss about the sea change. This is John Thune, a senator. In fact, he had stated this earlier. Senator John Thune said yesterday, the 11th, that Bitcoin is here to stay and that it is time to mainstream it. Take a look. President, a sizable portion of Americans are using cryptocurrencies. Americans who use stable coins are included in this. Additionally, there are people and companies all over the world that employ stable, dollar-backed coinage to access the US dollar. Stablecoins, Mr. President, are a relatively new financial innovation that has gained popularity quite fast. They provide simple payments using the stability and usefulness of the dollar note, along with the speed and security of the blockchain. Currently, there are around $250 billion of them in use. Companies like Uber and Airbnb are apparently looking into incorporating stablecoins into their operations, while traditional financial institutions are reportedly thinking about entering the stablecoin market. This president has made it quite evident that cryptocurrencies are here to stay, and that it is time to mainstream them. The Genius Act's passage is a wise first move. Stable currencies would have a defined regulatory structure thanks to the Genius Act. When Americans buy stable coins, it would guarantee that they can trust the people they are doing business with, enabling them to confidently exercise their financial independence. Additionally, the Genius Act would guard against illegal behavior and dangers to our national security. Stable coin issuers would have to follow the same guidelines as other financial institutions in order to keep an eye out for and report suspicious activity, abide with US sanctions, and stop illegal transactions. Yes. Furthermore, it's not simply about ensuring that cryptocurrencies are being widely accepted. It concerns how the United States will facilitate this by incorporating it into the American system. That's how we get things to become popular. Because of this, even while US institutions are getting ready for stablecoin efforts, our authorities have all given the big banks the all clear. As individual investors, we feel compelled to pay attention to the relationships that exist between these institutions and public networks. Why? Because that's precisely how we become wealthy. We make investments in the networks on which these stablecoins will be introduced. We look at the important connections between, say, large banks and particular networks. And of course, you know that these big banks are launching stablecoins that will lead to mainstream adoption of cryptocurrency. However, on top of this, we go over here to the US Senate votes to advance the Genius Act crypto stablecoin bill, which was obviously on the 11th. We received this update from Senator Tim Scott, who is the chairman of the Senate, and has promised to prioritize digital assets on banking GOP with the Genius Act. Scott is fulfilling that pledge, Chairman. Take a look. I pledge to give innovation, accountability, and wise regulation top priority in the developing digital economy when I was appointed chairman of the Senate Banking Committee. And we have the chance to fulfill that commitment. The most important piece of legislation pertaining to digital assets that has ever passed the U.S. Senate is the Genius Act. Months of bipartisan effort have resulted in it. Additionally, I would want to express my gratitude to Bill Haggerty, the bill's sponsor, who went above and above to ensure that this legislation was a bipartisan success by collaborating with Senator Gillibrand, Senator Brooks, Senator Loomis, and myself. The fact that Senator Haggerty's efforts have paid off, not for him, but for the American people, makes me immensely proud. That is the reason this procedure is so unique. It is the reason why the U.S. Senate is currently the most deliberative body in the world. For working families, small companies, and regular Americans who deserve quicker, less expensive, and safer access to financial services, this is a success. This framework will offer entrepreneurs the confidence to create here in the United States of America rather than overseas, which is a win for innovation. And it's a victory for national security, since the Genius Act cracks down on criminal actors both domestically and internationally by subjecting stablecoin issuers to stringent anti-money laundering regulations. Therefore, this is currently the final significant issue that we need to concentrate on for stablecoin projects, since, once this is resolved, Everything else will be in place. The large banks have already received approval from all regulators. Every major bank has been getting ready for stablecoin projects. The entire US digital asset market will be unlocked by the Genius Act, which will sort of favor stablecoin initiatives, in addition to digital asset adoption. That sea change is this. There is a strong push to ensure that digital currencies and assets in the US realize their full potential. I am ecstatic about this. I believe that everyone ought to take note of this. Everyone should, in my opinion, pay close attention to this as well, particularly if they hope to become extremely wealthy from the recent surge in digital currencies. The digital currency revolution is just getting started, and fiat money is moving on the blockchain more quickly than we ever imagined. Having said that, I hope you all found this video entertaining. You are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord channel described below if you would kindly leave a like, subscribe, and enable notifications because there will be more free stuff. And with that, I'd want to thank everyone for watching, Nick. Goodbye.